Welcome to our next project at HS Design Studio, the design and renovation of the basement. I want to try and give you a glimpse inside my brain, how I go about designing a layout, my tenet of layout design, if you will. It doesn't really matter what the space is, the process will be similar. Make sure to stick around to the end where I go into a little more detail about some of the keys to making this method work for you. It's little details like those, that kind of weird jog, angled walls, that's all stuff I want to change in the new design. It's awkward looking, it leads to weird room layouts. We're going to fix all that. Okay, so this bulkhead, it'll extend into the gym a little bit realistically because we've got to do 2 exhaust runs directly along it to punch out. Alright, as you can see or hear, not every detail of this basement is completely ironed out. There's still a little bit in flux because we don't exactly know how everything's going to shake out until demo's completed, drywall's finished, framing, all of that good stuff. And this bulkhead is a particularly challenging area because I don't know how big it's going to be yet. We have to run some exhaust lines for the new furnace and hot water tank. Ultimately, it's okay if you don't have every detail sorted for your own project. Sometimes things are going to pop up during demo, or you're going to have new ideas in the middle of the project, and it's okay to explore those and pivot and transition from your original plan. In this case, we came up with a pretty cool idea for an accent wall in the gym that's going to then transition up onto that bulkhead and create a little bit of a funky area off to the side of the weights. I'll be doing an entire video on that wall, so definitely stay tuned for that. Alright, so that's our original basement layout. This is what we're currently dealing with. And now let's walk through the changes we're going to make to the layout and framing, and then we'll start getting into some of the design from there. So the first thing we're going to do is start playing with this mechanical room. I'm not a fan of it being in the middle of the house, but we also don't have the budget to move everything, so we're kind of stuck with that. However, we're going to delete this wall here, and we're going to extend the current mechanical room wall out to even with here. We're then going to delete off this angle and we're going to square up this corner. Now, that kind of starts the formation of what is going to be a bedroom down here. So we're going to go in and we're going to carve out our next wall section, and it's going to be right about 2 feet off of there, forming our first new room in the basement. Now we'll talk about doors and all that after, but that's sort of the start of room number 1. This is going to stay as is over here. We're going to leave it as just a pass-through because this is going to become a sewing and storage room. Nothing overly complex, and it doesn't need to be closed off. It can be open to the rest of the basement. Now, in terms of the mechanical room, right now there's a single access door. It's really tight. You got to squeeze past the pressure tank for the well, squeeze past the water softener. And then the hot water tank and furnace sit back here. However, you can't access them to actually change them, so that's sort of what is triggering this entire basement renovation. So we're actually going to delete this corner as well onto that mechanical room. Now, over here, we're going to extend this out until it's right about there. Now, the reason we're stopping there is because there is a supporting post underneath this beam here. It continues all the way along the whole basement. And I want to hide that inside the wall. So we're going to close that off there, adding a little bit more space to this mechanical room. Now, the reason we're adding a little bit more space on this end is because ideally down the line, we're putting out an addition, a full secondary suite onto this house, or a guest house, if you will. And we may need to put a small cistern in the basement just to up kind of the storage of water capacity so we're not always reliant on the well. Now, going back to this other wall we deleted over here, this leaves us a nice access point, so we're going to stick this as a door. Now, I might square it off and put the door on the square side. I might put it on the angle side. We're going to talk to the HVAC guys when they're here and see what is preferential when it comes to repairs and replacements down the line. So for now, we're going to leave it like this. Now, as I mentioned, we've got a main beam all the way across the basement here. Well, we've got another post sitting right about here. And we want to put a home gym in this place. So we're actually going to add another wall into the basement. So if we come off of here, we're going to stay straight, and that wall is going to come and close off this area, giving us an area for the home gym. That leaves the rest of this basement as sort of open area for the kids and a TV room and space to just hang out. So let's head on down and take a look at what that layout actually looks like in person. Don't mind all the white, whew, look at that puff. I was just adding drywall. One of the worst jobs, like flat out worst jobs in renovating. So as we come down the stairs, we enter into what is going to be the TV area. So not a huge space, but room for either a sectional in the corner, or I think we're just going to reuse our current furniture, save a few dollars. So a couple of love seats and a chair, and then we have a new entrance into the mechanical room on this side. The doorway you now see over here leads you past what is going to be our TV wall and into the gym area. So we had a nice big gym at our old house, and we wanted to replicate that again here. And this time we're going to work in a dedicated bike area on the one side. So a couple indoor direct drive trainers for cycling. And then we'll have our free weights and squat rack on the other. If we exit back out that, back around to the other side of the basement, so that's kind of the first half. We have a storage closet under the stairs and some space over there. We have the new access to the mechanicals. And I talked about that, why we had to create it. Well, I guess they're both new. I moved this one a little bit. And then we have the entrance to what is going to be a bedroom or extra space down here. And it's all finished up, dividing the wall between the workout area and the bedroom. And then we have the final room down here, and this is what we're calling kind of our maker space. So we're going to set up the sewing machines, the 3D printer, and a big wall of storage is eventually going to finish out that space. And then the basement is rounded out by that extra or last full bath. I wanted to try something a little bit different with this renovation. Less vlog style videos on the process itself. And let's be honest, demo's fun to watch for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. After that, it's just swinging a hammer, creating a mess, and tearing stuff out. And generic framing and drywall are relatively useless without some tips and tricks to go along with it. And I'm definitely not the person to be giving you pointers and tips on how to finish out drywall. Instead, I want to discuss larger ideas like layout and focus on maybe some smaller projects within the renovation itself, like the accent wall in the gym. This will be one of the first videos on layout. And when I'm working on any space or designing a layout, I like to think about working from the inside out. Figure out the overarching goal and aim of the renovation as a whole, whether it's the room, a single space, or maybe even a level or a floor in your home. Make a list, and in the beginning, feel free to include everything you want to achieve. If it's a room, all the different things you want to make sure you get into that room. If it's a level in your home, all of the different spaces you want to create within that floor plan. You may need to drop an item or two as you go about making your plan. Maybe it's budget, maybe it's constraints such as the footprint just isn't large enough to include everything you want to include. However, at least you'll be doing so from an informed decision. Don't be afraid to get out painter's tape and mark out areas on the floor. If it's a basement renovation like mine, mark where your walls are going to sit. Then it'll start giving you an idea of the different rooms or spaces. If it's a kitchen and let's say you want to include an island, mark out that island on the floor and move around it for a few days as if you couldn't walk in that space. It'll give you a really quick idea if it's feasible in your footprint. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure to hit that button and join the community, because I'm going to follow this video up shortly with a full video and breakdown of how I put that inside out system to work on our basement renovation and why it'll work for your space as well. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.